Hey, I built this rig and I came across a couple of problems, and I solved the problems, at least some of them, with a really unique tool that I discovered, and I want to tell you about that tool today. I'm Neil. Today I want to tell you about a solution I found for working with bigger rigs like this when it comes to lighting and monitoring my video. And the solution comes from a company called D-Pro. It is an Xtender product, X-T-E-N-D-E-R. This one in particular is the film at 11. 11 denotes, I suspect, the fact that it is an 11-inch long device. And what it is, a friction arm that only articulates in a couple of different directions. And the reason that I like this particular friction arm as it compares to traditional friction arms, oh gosh, I don't have a friction arm right there. Where's my friction arm? I thought for sure I had one. Well, here, I've got one over here. The way that it differentiates itself from other friction arms like this guy here is in its freedom of movement. And you might say to yourself, why would I want a device that limits its freedom of movement rather than gives you unlimited freedom of movement? And in some cases, I would say that that is a valuable tool to have unlimited freedom of movement, range of movement, that you can take any one of these knuckles and you can go in any direction. It goes 180, 360 degrees, but easily does, 180 degrees from there all the way over to there. You get the idea. You can go just about anywhere, whereas this one only spins about certain points. And like I said, you might at first say, well, why would I want something that limits my range of motion? And I will show you exactly why that is a good thing. The first thing you should know is that this is a friction device, which means that you do have to actually set how much friction you want. And as you can see on this device, there are a great many number of places where you can adjust the amount of friction that it is able to produce. And you can adjust the friction by using this included hex key. And it is a very good T-handle hex driver. And these little screw points here have little tiny Allen screws that you can use to adjust the tension. And I will tell you that the way that they have designed this system is very good. So they've got this clamping mechanism that clamps down on their friction points that is both very easy to adjust, but seems to hold tight. I will also say that I built this rig over a year ago, probably about a year and a half ago. This is a Sony FS5 II. I built this just before I traveled to Nigeria a year ago in June. So now it's, like I said, about a year and a half old. And when I was building this rig, I wanted to build something for documentary work that was nimble and adjustable. Something that I could throw on a pair of sticks like this, or I could take it off the sticks and immediately get it up on my shoulder relatively easily. There were two big problems that I had with it that I was trying to solve that I originally solved with a friction arm. I attached the friction arm up here for a light, and the problem I have is when you attach a friction arm to a camera like this, let's just pretend for a moment that this is a light up here. If you get this relatively tight, it's either in a position where you can't move it, or like I can't right now adjust it up and down because the knuckle actually locks itself in this position. So if I loosen it up a little bit, it's really not possible to get it to a point where it's holding tight and I can articulate this middle section. So with one arm, if I've got this up on my shoulder, with one arm I can't reach up and adjust where this light is. And that's a pretty big problem. I can loosen it up, but then I get to a point where it does this, where it just drops, and whatever load I've got on this, be it a light or a monitor, it just drops from where it is. So it really requires two hands to operate, and when you've got the rig on your shoulder, you simply can't do that. So I was looking for a solution that I could do with one hand, and I had read that some of the friction arms have more articulation points, and I've got some of those, and they work, but not as well as the solution that I found. And again, even on the friction arms that have multiple articulation points, you still wind up loosening one of those articulation points and it just goes floppy. The other issue I have with a friction arm like this is when you get them into an orientation where you've actually got the load, especially when it comes to a monitor, where you want it. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, I get a monitor on here, you know, over to, well, let's just call it back here. So say I'm on a tripod just like I am now, and I've got this back here like this. The problem is that if the monitor is slightly askew, it really makes it difficult to frame your shot because the monitor is not completely parallel or perpendicular to your camera. And when it's back here, it's not such a big deal when it's on sticks because you're really focused on the screen. But I find, in particular, when I am filming on my shoulder, if the monitor down here is askew, it really makes it difficult to follow your shot. You really want everything squared up very nicely. What I found is from a company called D-Pro, they make a line of arms called Xtenders, Xtenders. They solve some of these problems in a very unique way. This is the Film at 11, which is an 11-inch arm, and it seems like it's about exactly that. The way that it articulates, it has, you know, at each knuckle, the ability to go just over 180 degrees, it looks like, and then this particular one spins in this direction, and then this middle knuckle spins 360 degrees, but it also pivots to it goes to just about 270, a little bit under 270 degrees open like that. This last knuckle here, this spins. So what I can do, you can see I've got a cold shoe on here right now with a very large thumb screw on it, which I like a lot. I can slide that up onto my FS5 Mark II very easily, and you can see how it very quickly allows me to position something. So when I'm filming, doing a documentary, more often than not, I've got a lighting package and I'm doing a 3-point light kit. But occasionally I go out and I will shoot without a light kit, and I will just have a light on my camera. And when that happens, I'm often using one of these guys. This is the Bolt 250. There are many lights like this out there and available. I have a whole bunch of them, but this is just the one that I go to most often. A, because it's very bright. B, because it has a relatively narrow beam. C, because it has the ability to adjust its color temperature. And D, and perhaps most importantly to me, I can run this guy right off of D-tap power, which means that I can power this light right off of the V-mount battery on the back of my rig, which makes the whole package very convenient and relatively lightweight for a lot of light output. I screw this on, back it off just a little bit, and I adjust these thumb screws here on the top, and I've got my light on. Now usually I would, in most rigs like this, you'd throw a light on right here. Every ENG, electronic news gathering camera I've ever seen, has the light front and center just like this, and it works. It is not the most flattering look though. It throws the light straight at your subject, and that's not always the best look. For me, I like to get the light, you know, off the camera and up just a little bit and give it just a little bit of angularity. I feel like when you're shooting in a situation that demands a on-camera light, the best you can do, or in the situation, is just get it out and away a little bit. So what I am able to do with the Film at 11 is easily pivot this out and over here, which, as you can see, is incredibly easy. So from the front, you can see that it starts here, right in the center like that, but I can easily get it out and over here very easily. And that gets far enough away from the lens, the center of the lens, that I've really got some decent angularity to my light. And I can go one step further. I can raise this up, and then just spin the light a little bit, and now I've got the light up significantly higher and over as well. And I can do a combination of those things relatively easily. And that's all because the way that this friction arm works is it's a set it and forget it type situation. You set the friction points, you set the tension in the friction points, and you never have to touch them again. So assuming what you're loading this with stays the same weight, you really don't have to adjust the arm's friction at any one point ever. And in the last 6 months, in the last year of using this, and I've now been using this product for a year, I have not found that the knuckles loosen up significantly. More often than not, I do change the light that I'm using, so I do keep the included T-handle driver with me, which is not that big of a burden, and it comes in handy for a number of things. But more often than not, I find that the friction points stay adjusted to the tension that I have set them to, and they never really need a readjustment. I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, this guy, it does exactly what you want it to do. It gets the light away from the center of the lens very easily. And, you know, to my original point, I want to be able to do this with one hand. And this is the big difference between a system like this and a traditional friction arm. And that is, I can, with this on my shoulder, this rig on my shoulder, easily reach up over my head and adjust these friction points effortlessly with one hand. No problem at all. So if I need to get the light out and adjusted, no problem at all. Easy to achieve, easy to accomplish with one hand. So that is how I use the Filmed 11 with a light. I also use the Filmed 11 with a monitor, and I think that that solution is equally as unique. So what I'll do is I'll take this off, and before I take it all the way off, I'll show you one more thing I really appreciate about the manufacturing. And that is, you can see here, if you look really closely, all the way down inside there, this is tough. You can see there's a tiny thumb screw all the way down in there. You can see there's a tiny thumb screw in there that I can slide this T-handle right into and tighten this up. That's really thinking things through, because what that allows me to do is, once I get the mounting screw attached to this guy, I'm able to lock that mounting screw in place with that thumb screw in there. I guess it's not a thumb screw, it's I forget what that's called, but that screw inside the threads actually clamps down on the thumb screw so that it doesn't loosen up. So no matter what happens, everything stays, you know, where it's supposed to be locked off to. I want to take a moment to thank our. Before we get going today, I would like to talk about affiliate linking and why you won't find any affiliate links to the products we talk about on this channel down below. If I am reviewing something, a product on this channel, and I know that there's an affiliate link down below, I'm gonna be more likely to be excited about that product, because in the back of my mind, I'll know that I'm gonna be making some money on you buying that product. And that's a relationship that I'd like to stay away from. So instead of using affiliate links, I'm very pleased to say that today, this channel is fully supported by ThinkTank. ThinkTank is the manufacturer of camera and video bags and accessories. They make some really cool things, from little pockets to keep all of your memory cards organized in, to big bags like this for your video equipment, and sticks. I bought in 2006, sticks, one of their belts with a bunch of lens pouches and other pockets. They actually only started in 2005. I found them in a local camera store just a year after they started, which was really cool. This bag in particular, this is the VideoRig 25, I believe it's called. It's big enough to take care of this camera right here, the Sony FS5 II on a shoulder rig. I can take that whole camera fully assembled and throw it in this bag, and then this can go with me anywhere. And then when I get there, I don't have to assemble my camera, put my lenses on, put my monitor on. It's all together. I just pull it out of the bag, throw it on my shoulder, and I can get going. These two bags have been with me literally around the world. They've been to Dubai, they've been to Nigeria twice, they've been to Haiti, and they have held up admirably, despite the airline's best effort to pull them apart. I trust them completely to take care of my equipment, and I would recommend that you trust ThinkTank to take care of your equipment. Check them out. There's a one and only affiliate link to ThinkTank in the description below. If you follow that link, it'll support this channel, and it won't cost you a penny more. In fact, ThinkTank runs promotions. I believe they're running one right now for 20% off everything on their website, so check them out. You can click the affiliate link below. Thanks so much for their support. Now, let's get on with the show. All right, I didn't like get on with the show, so for the purposes of using this for a monitor, I like to have the monitor a little bit further back on my camera. So I have found that I like to put it, attach it with a slightly different bracket here in the back. So right now I've got the, there we go. Right now I've got the cold shoe mount on there, and I've said before, I really appreciate how big this thumb screw is. It's knurled very nicely. I can get a good grip on it, but it doesn't hurt my fingers when I tighten it down tightly on top of my camera. But to mount this on the camera the way I prefer, I'm just gonna take this thumb screw off, grab a Phillips head screwdriver and just loosen this guy up. I don't have that internal screw tightened. There we go. So we've got a screw and the thumb screw. That comes with this. And then I've also got a pile of other accessories. Comes with a little sheet, which I've beaten up a little bit, and a couple of other accessories. This accessory in particular, goodness, I cannot keep this in frame. This accessory is a part that you can use to attach to the top of your FS5 or other cameras, I suspect. A lot of ENG style and Cine style cameras that have this top handle have a 1/4-20 up here with a similar base on it. So you drop that right on here and you can see it fits right over the top plate there really well. I'm gonna grab the medium screw, drop that the correct way through like this. Everything's all countersunk and nice, and screw that in. So if this goes on here like this, tighten that on, there we go. Now, the first thing you will notice that I really appreciate is that when the Film at 11 is parallel to this top handle, I can grab this top handle with no problem at all. Because of the way that this is designed, when it's collapsed and in its collapsed form, you can see I can grab right onto the top handle. I can grab around it like this. I can grab it like this. It's no problem at all. I still have a good firm grip. And if anything, I'm able to hold the load that's on this guy. The Film at 11 also comes with this double-ended 1/4-20 with thumb screws, which I'm going to screw right into here. I was just checking if either end is different, and they're not. So that screws into right there like that. And then I can screw, for example, a monitor onto here. It comes with a couple of washers. I don't think that this washer is intended to be what I'm using it for, but I'm gonna use it anyway because it does the job. All right, so now I've got the Film at 11 up on top of my camera. So this is a Focus 5 from SmallHD. It's a relatively small and light monitor. I hook it up via HDMI right to the camera, and it's a smaller monitor, but it works very well for the purpose. So traditionally, you would use this. Let me just take this off. Traditionally, you'd use this Focus 5 for your first AC, who'd be pulling focus off to the side of the camera. So let's go to the AC side of this camera and just spin this out here like this, spin this around like this, and then this around like that. And you can see how very easily I've now got a monitor over the side of this rig. And whoever my AC is, they can very easily adjust where the monitor is. They can adjust where the monitor is off the rig. I mean, the whole thing is relatively effortless to move. I'm holding it up here, but you don't really have to. I mean, the whole thing is operatable with one hand, and the friction points, of course, can be adjusted so that it's exactly the way you want it to be. The other thing that I do with this arm fairly often is I will position it back here like this. So if I'm in a situation just like I am now, and I'm behind the camera, I can now get the monitor out behind me and behind the camera really, really easily and right in my face. So I'm able to see exactly what I'm doing. Similarly, if I am off to the side, I can get this right here and much closer than the monitor up here. And being a higher resolution monitor than this by a lot, I'm really able to pull focus on this much easier. And of course, I've got my peaking and all of the other things up here too, zebra stripes and everything else I need up here. So I can control that from the screen rather than having to go through the camera's menus. Not that that's so cumbersome. I've got dedicated buttons for most of that, but It's just easier from this screen, which I will point out, you know, I'm able to tap and use this screen perfectly fine without it moving around, at least when it's tight. You can see that I'm able to do exactly what I need to do. Now, the other thing that I was saying I appreciate about having this over a friction arm is it keeps everything perpendicular. It's very easy with the limited number of articulation points to keep a screen in exactly the position that you want it to be in, and keep it perpendicular and or parallel to lined up, orthogonal, not orthogonal, what's the word? Just lined up to your camera so that it's not in a position that is difficult to use. I mean, I've got it blocking my screen right here. I probably wouldn't ever do that, but I would absolutely use it in a position where it is right here, like this. The Focus 5 easily flips upside down when you turn it upside down. So there we go. So I've got now another position where everything is all lined up perfectly. I use this most of the time for my AC, and I would use it like this, where it's out over the side like that. And with a smaller monitor like this, you can extend it all the way with no trouble. And then, like I said, if I'm then a solo operator and I'm just doing something behind the camera, I just swing that right around the back, and that mode works really well too. The 11-inch film at 11 works very well for me. They've got a smaller film at 5, which is just this one piece here. That wouldn't work as well for me on this setup. What I will say is not great about this is its weight bearing capacity. I would say that the SmallHD FOCUS 5 is lighter than it has to be. I could put a larger monitor on here. The Bolt Light actually weighs significantly more than the FOCUS 5 does, and this, you know, flies just fine on this arrangement. I have occasionally put a bowling P1 on this arm instead. This is an RGB light that is battery powered. It is also significantly heavier, probably about the same weight as the Bolt, but another light that I've used on there. What doesn't work well, but does work at all, is the Atomos 7-inch Shogun Inferno. I can put this on here and I'll show you what that looks like. It works, but it's not fabulous. I find that it's a little bit heavier than I would like. I have a very large SmallHD cage on this monitor, which makes the whole thing significantly heavier than it really has to be. Not to mention, I find that in general, the Atomos Shogun Inferno, which is the only monitor that is actually compatible with this camera, just generally doesn't do terribly well on this camera, just because it's such a large monitor for what it needs to be. So you can see that it does actually work. Like, I'm able to use the film at 11 to fly this Shogun Inferno, but I would have to tighten up the knuckles quite a bit, and it works. I mean, actually, it does work, but especially when you get walking around with it, it is, to get the friction to a point where it holds the monitor where you want it, but doesn't move around when you're moving around, isn't the easiest, or isn't ideal, but it does work. You can make it work. It's drooping now again because I don't have those these friction points right here on the back adjusted exactly right, but it can be done, though, like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. In summary, for flying smaller monitors or any on-camera light, the Xtender film at 11, I think, is a really good solution. For flying larger monitors like the Shogun Inferno, 7-inch monitors with a recorder built in, I wouldn't recommend this particular model. I think that there are other solutions for that. 11-inch friction arm like this might be your best bet, but for everything else, I think that this is a much better solution than a friction arm, because A, you can use it with one hand, B, you can actually leave it on your camera like I do, right up here, right on that top mounting point, and still have access to the handle. If I had a friction arm up here, I could put it along here, but it's bigger and bulkier. If I put it down to the side, it's kind of in the way. Like I said, I think that this is a really elegant solution. I think D-Pro has done a great job designing and manufacturing this product. I would highly recommend it, and now after over 12 months of nearly continual use, I can say that it physically holds up. It holds its friction settings relatively well, and has been a workhorse on this rig and in a couple of other situations. I think that's everything for today on the Xtender film at 11. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this information has been helpful.